Hey guys, I'm back again and I'm here today to do for you my December 2015 wrap up. There were quite a few people who said they were interested, so I said, okay, I'll come on here and try to really wrap up 2015. So you see that I wasn't completely slacking just in making videos. I was actually reading. So we're going to start with what I was reading that got spilled over into December, from November to December, which is Fates and Furies. I'm not gonna go into this any more than the little mini rant that I did on my other video. This book, I'm sorry, no ma'am, it was not for me. I know it has been causing a little bit of a stir. Half the people like it, the other half don't. This is not the kind of book that moves me in any sense of the word, so I can't relate to this. I really can't. Some people were saying, oh yeah, it's, you know, privileged, and you know, which is true, and maybe that's why it just doesn't move me that much. I don't really care about these people, and I don't really know what Aaron Groff is trying to say with all this, but anyway, marriage is not that bad, okay? Well, all right. Next, I read The Fisherman by Chigozie Obiama, and I must say I thought this was a very good book. I gave it 3 stars. You're probably wondering, well, why didn't you give it 4? Come on, Dee Dee, why didn't you give it 4? Well, I didn't give it 4 because I didn't think it was 4 for me. But I don't know. I think I was expecting more from this than I got. And, I don't know. I just, I read along. I found it very interesting. There were some parts that were a bit slow. They seemed to be dragging for me. But if you like that kind of, I guess you could say fable-esque kind of writing, then you'll probably think this is fantastic and you really love it. Comparing it as a man book or short list, it is a well-written book, but it is probably one of the more readable ones on the list. It's not too difficult to get into. It's a story that, you can kind of follow, but there is a lot going on in this book. And I'm not sure, at least I'm hoping it's not like the typical thing, which is everything is juxtaposed between, the African man and his, colonization, background. I'm hoping that that is not the only thing that is in this book, but it is, you can see that that is part of it. But I'm thinking that there's more than that. I am not an expert on African symbolism and fables and all that kind of thing. So I'm sure some of this went over my head. But be that as it may, I suggest you picking it up. I think it might even be even better on an audiobook, because there's a lot of African languages spoken in the book, and being that I don't speak any Igbo, a lot of Igbo being spoken. I would imagine that in the audiobook, this would be beautifully done, that you would get the real African expression, like when the mother is speaking and stuff like that. So yeah, I say give this one a go. I'm just not raving about it like some people on Booktube are raving about it. Next, I picked up Nigel Slater's A Year of Good Eating, and this is part 3, I think, of this series, because I think this is, A Year of Good Eating, The Kitchen Diaries, part 3. And I guess you probably all know who Nigel Slater is. He's a food journalist and writer, and he has written quite a lot of books about food. And let me tell you, I have this thing. I like to cook. I love food, and I love reading, books like this, cookbooks like this, but also like reading stories that revolve around food as well. This one is particularly interesting because what he does is he covers recipes, but that are seasonal based recipes. And I think it's really important nowadays that we stop trying to have strawberries in December, because that's not good. That's not where we're at now. We need to keep that natural and get back to nature and try to cook foods in the right season, because one, we get the maximum vitamins out of them, and we also enjoy them more. You enjoy strawberries more in summer than when you do in December. So I'll show you a few interesting recipes in here. Every recipe is awesome. I haven't tried to cook anything yet. I just finished reading it like I said, at the end of December. But like here, look, you have this seafood goodness right here. And then, oh look, you have this lovely steak, Stilton, and thyme pie. And let's see some other ones that look really good, because oh wait, here we go. Spiced chicken and noodle soup. I'm definitely going to try this one day because it just looks awesome. It looks so good. So if you're interested in cooking, I suggest you pick this one up. And this is a nice edition. It's got a little, you know, interior bookmark. It's a hardcover. I keep this one in my kitchen with all my kitchen type cookbooks and stuff. And I'm very glad that I jumped and picked it up. So I'm interested in reading, I think it's called Tender. And I think Tender is the one, it's about his fruit and vegetable garden, and it's in 2 parts. And the other one I want to read is Toast. And I think this is like a memoir about his life and stuff. So hopefully, eventually, I'll get to those at some point. Next, I picked up Bourgeois Blues, and you know why I don't have a jacket for this. And I told you what it was about. And yeah, I am really interested in getting into reading some Jake LaMarr, because yeah, Jake LaMarr has been on my shelf for a while now, and I haven't picked up his books. I think I own 2 of them. This is the 3rd one. So if you're interested in looking into a memoir to read, I say read this one. It's pretty good. It's very short, very engrossing, and yeah, you'll learn a lot of things about the black man in this book. Then I picked up Becoming Abigail by Chris Abani. Okay, and this was, because this is the Essence Book Club symbol, and so they had this as one of their picks. I'm not sure what year it was, but this is a story about a young girl who is born into a family but loses her mother simultaneously, and she happens to share the same name as her mother, which is Abigail. She then grows up with her father, who is grieving permanently 24/7. He can't look out at his daughter without thinking of his wife. So as you can see, she feels as if though she doesn't exist in this family, which is a fairly reduced family. And I think this is taking place in Nigeria. So we see how Abigail becomes who she is at the end of the novel. Now, I'm not going to tell you anything more than that, because it is a novella. So it's super short. It's only 119 pages. So I suggest you pick it up. Chris Abani is a wonderful writer. This is the first book I've read by him, but I'm hoping to get to 2 of his other ones. And yeah, he has a very sensitive writing style. This one is written almost, you would think that it was a woman who wrote it, the way he goes into the, you know, the explanations and the sensuality and the sensitivity. All of your senses are heightened. It's a very interesting read. Next, I picked up Men of the South. Men of the South was interesting because I hadn't heard anyone on BookTube talk about this book, but I'd seen it on Instagram and I saw it a lot on Twitter as well. So I went and I picked it up on ebook. It was quite I found quick read. I think I read it in an afternoon, and it basically explores 3 male characters and their attempt to navigate this 3 different difficulties they're having. So the first guy, he is a brilliant trumpetist, and he is trying to get his jazz career off the ground. But some things happen, and suddenly this all becomes this seems like it's almost impossible for him. Then the second guy, he is also from South Africa, because that's where the book takes place. And he works in, I think he works in an NGO in the beginning, and then he has to move to another place. And he is struggling with his sexuality. I won't tell you any more about that because it's very interesting to read and it's very well done. And then the third guy is a guy who's actually from Zimbabwe, but he's living and working in South Africa because he couldn't find any work in Zimbabwe. So he went to South Africa. So he winds up working at this NGO. And it's very funny the way the NGO is depicted, because it just shows you all of the pitfalls of NGO in countries like, South Africa or, Nigeria and these other places. And the author does a very good job of bringing that through the novel. And so you see how this third character, who is not South African, pretty much the way he's treated as being an outsider in a way, and how he has to try to, be accepted, and also to try to improve his situation, his work situation, because his family is depending on him to send money back to them for, the educating of the other brothers and sisters and the family expenses and stuff. And the book goes into feminism and, what is it that men are supposed to be doing? What is it that women are supposed to be doing? African traditions, what's expected of them as being, Zulu or from Zimbabwe or whatever. And it does it in, I would say, a fairly lighthearted manner compared to the way some books from different African countries, they depict their stories in a much more intense manner. And this one is a more everyday kind of read. So I would suggest you pick it up, because it is not difficult to read. However, I didn't think it was 4 stars, but I found that it was a very good 3 stars. So yeah, well worth the read. For me, 3 stars is a good book. If I start doing 2 and 1, you got trouble. But yeah, I thought it was really well done. And I'm kind of interested in reading her other book, which is called The Madams. And I think she won an award for that one. And she also won an award for this one, Men of the South. I can't remember which one it is right now, but yeah. And yeah, so she might be somebody to check out, because she is a South African writer, female, and I don't hear anybody talking about her. So yeah, check it out. And yeah. Okay. Last but not least, I read Hausfrau. Now, Hausfrau was a real surprise for me, because I hadn't read anything by Esbaum. I think her name is Jill Alexander Esbaum is her name, the author. And this is a book about a young woman. I think her name is Nnenna. And she's American, and she falls in love and gets married to a Swiss, and his name is Bruno, and she basically goes to live with Bruno in Switzerland. So when you enter the story, I think she's been living in Switzerland for like 9 years or something like that. So you would think after 9 years in Switzerland, she would be completely at ease with the language and the culture and the whole thing. But what you see is that she isn't. Her German is at best beginner. She does not have a command of the language like she should. And she feels a little bit like an outsider, it seems like, in her own family. So basically what you do is you follow Nnenna through her trials and tribulations of being a housewife. Now, what's interesting about this is that because it's called Hausfrau, which is housewife, you would imagine that the majority of the book would take place inside of the house with Nnenna bitching and moaning and complaining about cooking and cleaning and taking care of her kids and all that. But in fact, it's not at all like that. Most of the book, when we see Nnenna, she's outside of her home. So she lives near her mother-in-law. So her mother-in-law can take care of her youngest child, because she has 3 children. Her voice is quite lively, and she tells you exactly what she's thinking. And I guess you could say you would think she was an unreliable narrator, but in fact, she is a very reliable narrator, I think. She actually tells you the truth, even when it's freaking embarrassing. She tells you the truth, and I think that is what makes the story kind of interesting. But yeah, I say give this one a go. It's worth it, and I'm looking into maybe her next novel, because Esbaum is really known for writing poetry. So I haven't read any of her poetry. If any of you out there have read her poetry, give me a suggestion of which collection I should pick up, because I would be probably interested in reading some of that too. So that's all I read in the month of December. So I read 7 books, technically 6 if you don't count Fates and Furies, because I basically read the last 130 pages of Fates and Furies in December. But yeah, it was a pretty good month, even though, you know, I read Hausfrau, The Fisherman, Men of the South, and Becoming Abigail. I read all 4 books in 5 days, like around Christmas. So, you know, the rest of the month I was in the slump because of Fates and Furies. Anyway, so that's all I have for you today. I'll be back really soon with another video.